We need to awaken our real resources. Our real resources have to do with a greater percentage of use of the brain's available organizing power. Many, many years ago, many decades ago, I worked with a Nobel Prize-winning neurologist, Sir John Eccles, an Australian Nobel Laureate, when he lived in upstate New York after his retirement from his academic responsibilities. And this Nobel Laureate convinced me that, on average, people's brains, though they have enormous computing power, they're using on average about 2% of their brain's available organizing power. Now, this is not to say that the whole brain is not active and that the whole brain is not being used. The 98% is being used by storing irrelevant reactivity, stress-related, past-related, overwhelming overloads of experience that have memories that have been lodged in the cells in the brain and the body are at the ready to become reactive, to fight or to flee, just in case something that happened to be around at that time, a smell, a taste, a color, a vision of some kind, that these sounds or other kinds of perceptible triggers can trigger an irrelevant reaction to something which actually was simply an innocent bystander phenomenon that happened to be around at a time when we got stressed. In neuroscience, we refer to these as premature cognitive commitments. Premature because the commitment is being made prematurely to the danger meaning of an otherwise innocent perception. So what is the brain being used for? It's being used to store a tremendous amount of irrelevant reactivity. And what is liberated, around 2% or so, of the brain's available computing power. What stands between you and abundance of resources is one thought. Have you had that thought yet? One thought. For Einstein, it was perhaps 2 or 3 thoughts. Special relativity got him the Nobel Prize many, many years before he came up with E equals mc squared. For Steve Jobs, working out of a garage with his partner on a limited budget, eating the kind of food that frat boys eat and so on. They had a thought. And the point I'm making is, you have a thought. Thomas Edison, the thought of an incandescent bulb, which revolutionized lighting. For Ben Franklin, it was the thought of electricity that you could transport from the sky into a key that sat in a jar. A thought. And so then, when are you going to get that thought? And in order to break the ever-repeating known, we have to have a radical, revolutionary thought. And then we have to have the courage to act on it. You're not the only person on earth who was facing a rather, boring set of resources seem to be limited. There are so many stories that could be told of women and men who stepped into their power by virtue of having a single thought, one thought. When is that thought going to come? So to awaken our creative intelligence so that we can have the right thought at the right time, we have to practice Vedic meditation. During Vedic meditation, the mind, with eyes closed, settles down into its own at least excited state. and experiences directly the source of thought. We produce, on average, somewhere between 60,000 to 100,000 cognitive events, cognitive processes. Let's call those things thoughts. These are memories, desires, ideas, and so on. Thoughts, basically, in a day. Somewhere between 60,000 to 100,000. And, it doesn't mean that you're more genius if you have 100,000. You could have 100,000 pretty dumb thoughts. Or you could have 60,000 genius thoughts. But volume is what we're looking at here. Every thought is a stream of energy and intelligence. We know that thoughts have energy because thought is a process, a cognitive process. All processes require energy. And you can measure the energy in thought as it translates into the electrical functioning of the brain. Using electroencephalography, we can see how particular styles of thinking change the voltage levels that are measurable on the scalp using an EEG or brainwave device. Thoughts have energy, and there's 100,000 or so of them a day. Thoughts discriminate. By that I mean they differentiate. They distinguish between one thing and another thing that looks very like it, but in fact might be the mirror opposite and may have many other details of difference. And so the ability to discriminate indicates intelligence. A thought is about something. It's not just a random explosion of anything. It's about something specific. And we produce tens of thousands of these a day. Where is all that energy and intelligence coming from? It's coming from the source of thought. Someone might argue, but the environment makes me think. A bird cheeped, and then I thought a bird twittering out there. That's the stimulus. That may be the cause. But we're making a distinction here between the cause and the source. The source of thought. The bird doesn't do the thinking. You do the thinking. Your consciousness does it. The source of thought is that unbounded field of creative intelligence, the place from which all of the tens of thousands of streams of energy and intelligence come every day. That layer of your mind already is extant. Meditation does not create it. Meditation takes your awareness to where already it is. And then you allow yourself to identify with that, to experience that source, and then by experiencing it, it ceases to be transcendental. Transcendental means beyond. It ceases to be transcendental. It starts to become conscious. Conscious access to the infinite reservoir of creative intelligence inside. It's fabulous. And so in order to harness that and really awaken, your use of the greatest wasted resource on earth right now is not water or food or land or anything else. All those things, if they are wasted, they're wasted because of lack of use of full brain power. Lack of use. How do we awaken full brain power? Find your local Vedic meditation teacher who is authorized to teach this and take a course. It takes a few days, about 90 minutes each day for 4 days. And you learn the technique. You establish it as a regular program, a regular routine, systematically, strategically practice it each morning and each evening. Awaken the inner resource base and get the thought, or get the 10 thoughts, or the 10,000 thoughts that will really show you what your true level of resources is. That level of resources is not, money or this or that or who you know or what you know. It's your ability to come up with something innovative, something inventive, something creative. And all that creativity is just waiting for you. Better start using it. Jai Gurudev.